This is Roy Kelly for Seconds Out. Thrilled to be joined by Kalle Sauerland in the immediate aftermath of Josh Kelly's WBO International Super Welterweight title victory over Gabriel Corzo. Kalle, what were your assessments of tonight's show?
Well, 7.5 hours of boxing in the Northeast, live on DAZN. Fantastic. I'm exhausted. Not quite as exhausted as some of the fighters, I'm sure. Cracking night. And Josh, his first fight, let's say, at world level, fighting the number 9 in the world, very tough, rough opponent. We saw Josh boxing on the front foot, back foot, the speed of Josh. He's simply incredible, the reactions, and, he fought out of his skin. I thought he was great. He was hard on himself afterwards. He seemed to be very angry when the fight ended. I think he wanted a couple more rounds. And he actually tried to have a couple more rounds on the final bell. But, it was really important to get that win tonight. It takes us on the big things.
Do you think he was a little bit frustrated that he wasn't able to build on the dazzling display against Troy Williamson, or was that down to the opponent spoiling things tonight?
Yeah, and I think that was his frustration at the end, because he wanted to get him out there. He wanted to make that sort of statement, which I always say, don't make that statement. That's for me to go and say, but you don't actually have to go and do it. You just box, and it will come from itself. But when you fight a guy like that, it's frustrating. Of course, it's frustrating. And I would say the difference is that Troy came forward all night. And Troy threw a lot of hands. This guy, he'd obviously watched that fight and tried to do exactly the opposite: sit off the ropes and wait for him to throw before he threw, and work off that tactic. That didn't work, because he quickly switched in the middle of the fight to fighting out the middle of the ring, and things got a bit nasty in the middle, especially in the middle of the fight. And but you got to go through these things. You can't pick and choose, and at that level, it's the same with what's next. Can't pick and choose. We'll see. It will be what comes out of the dust of the federations, or the dust of what's happening in the domestic scene right now. Either way, it's going to serve up some interesting fights.
Even given Josh's level of frustration, do you think this was still a step forward for Josh Kelly tonight?
Learning curve. So many different things going on in that fight tonight. It was like watching 3 or 4 fights in one. Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. So, I feel be delighted with that when he looks back.
With the world title situation with Jermell Charlo, who has quite a lot of the belts at the moment, or all of them.
He's had them for a long time and not defended them. So that's never good in the sport. We've obviously seen around the heavyweight division, certain fights not being made, but it's similar in this situation here. He's now popping up to fight Canelo. So hopefully, and I'm sure the right thing will be done. It won't be just us pushing. We're number 2. There's number 1. There's Tim Sue. There's the IBF situation. There's a lot of different things going on. So it's one of those that will take a few weeks to work out what's happening. But either way, we're in such a good place right now in terms of what can happen. So I'm never relaxed about it, but I'm actually quite excited to see what it throws up.
You deliciously teased a potential domestic blockbuster this week. Where's your gut feeling lie with this, Kalle?
In an ideal world, we'd be fighting a domestic blockbuster for a world title, but it's not Domino's Pizza, and we can't order the toppings on it. It's professional boxing. So my head tells me, look, the world title part is fixed. It's on. Yeah, it's a screwed on path, and but as we've seen, those things can take its time. So they might order a certain fight before us. They might not do anything. They might say, "Oh well, we'll take decision after the Canelo fight." We'll give him the Canelo fight, and then he can decide after that fight. There's a lot of different things that can come out of it. So what? That's where the domestic stuff also comes in, doesn't it? Because if we're going to say, give us a shot, but it's only going to be first half of next year, then and it's a very easy decision to make. Well, we'll see what dance partners are available in the UK and put a great show on over here. You know.
You have got quite a bit of form in terms of like tournaments and those sort of events, and a little bit left field.
I love a tournament.
Is that realistic?
I saw a lineup floating around on social media. I think it's very good. But I don't think some of the weights are just not a little bit unrealistic. I saw a few people, commenting on the weights, and but I think they put it out there because it's a bit of fun on a Friday night, and it's a bit of banter. I think Billy Joe's announced that he's coming back at light heavy, or he's looking at light heavy. So he's clearly like, Josh is boxed at 154 tonight. So it's like, how does that all come together? And at the end of the day, it's more, it's a bit of fantasy boxing manager in there, but. Whereas, could you put something together, a 4-man or a 5-man? Absolutely. Absolutely.
While we've got you here, Kalle, a very big period for Wasserman, starting next week in Edinburgh. Lee McGregor.
Well, start tonight, 7.5 hours on DAZN tonight. We're off to Edinburgh on Friday with big fight Lee McGregor, challenging for the world title against Robles. It's going to be a big night up in Edinburgh for us. We've got Harlem Eubank on the card, Magical Matty Harris, the big fast heavyweight, who's quickly progressing. So exciting times. And then the night after, we're with our Misfits gang over in Nashville, live on DAZN with Survivor Tag. Don't ask me what Survivor Tag is because I'm working out myself. I'll be reading the rules on the plane.
And you've got a big heavyweight title fight coming up for Filip Hrgovic against Demsey McKean. Yeah. You're going to break into the world title scene?
Yeah, I mean, it was, our history has had many world champions that we promoted at heavyweight. In the last 10, 15 years, we've had 4 or 5 heavyweight champs. So we'd like to have one again. And I think Filip Hrgovic could be that man. He's been, when we talk about Josh and the dangers of the world title and, waiting for the world title shot, Filip's a perfect example. He got called to fight for a final eliminator in February, what are we this year? February 21, right? And now we're in July 23, and, we still haven't had a shot. So you see the dangers of only going that path, and sometimes you can't, especially the IBF. It's a very locked-in process, so our activities will be very limited through that. Because if you take a fight suddenly and they call it and you're taking a fight, you're out. So you've got to be very careful what you do. You can only really do fights very short notice. So we're delighted that we know that Usyk's fighting the end of August. We've gone beginning of or middle of August. Can't take. We had to take an opponent to give him a solid fight before such a challenge. And Demsey McKean's a very, very live fight. We're aware, but it's those risks you have to take. Joe Joyce did the same thing. It was the right fight for Joe to take because he had to fight that sort of a fight to get in the right. You can't be fighting off layoffs. You can't be fighting bums to fight against the likes of Usyk and Fury. So, for Joe, it wasn't his night. Hope for him he puts it right in the second fight. For us, we can't make the same mistake. We've got to take care of McKean.
Yeah, and certainly not bums in this conversation. Eubank Jr. and Liam Smith, we've got, you might have some news. September the 2nd's being touted?
Yeah, it's very close, very close. It's needs a few I's dotting and a few T's crossing in the next 24, 36 hours.
And how will Chris Eubank Jr. make it different this time from the original meeting?
He'll do it by winning, but not by losing. No, I think the approach will be different. I'd like to see a bit of the old Eubank, a bit of rough and tumble. Although I thought he boxed very well in the I think the 3rd round. He boxed really well and Liam in some trouble, but I do think that the best style for Chris in that fight is what he does best. Yeah, straight stuff.
Kalle, congratulations on tonight and thank you for joining Seconds Out.
Thank you very much.